Morning, everybody. We have two great guests today. It's Marsha Casper Cook, and we were talking today about why are books banned, and among other things. I have had this show 10 years ago, but it was about sexy books, but these are about children's books. So I'm going to introduce two people to you. We're going to be discussing exactly what's going on right now, and Ellwyn Autumn and Tom Tracy. Ellwyn, are you here? How are you?
Hi, Marsha. How are
How
you?
you? I'm good.
Uh,
And
th- Thanks for having me on again.
oh, you're welcome, Tom.
I'm here. Can you
Oh,
hear
that's
me?
great. Yes, I
Oh,
can.
great.
All right.
So good to be here again.
I
Thank
know.
you.
It's great. We are at a new network, but we get a lot of exposure now, which is a good thing. So I'm an author of children's books also, and as I said at the beginning, it's this is a tough subject, but we're going to take it on today. So, Tom, why don't you start off by you have an event going on, Kickstarter?
Oh, I do. Thank you, Marcia. Yeah, so right in line with what we're talking about today, we have a project. Ellwyn is part of it. We've got 100 kids' book authors of books on a variety of different diverse themes. We've come together, these 100 authors, to showcase 150 of our kids' books, our kids' stories in the what's called the Catalog of Diverse Kids Books. And we are raising funds through a Kickstarter campaign to give that book away, to distribute it for free to teachers and parents, librarians, etc., to help them become familiar with these incredible stories.
Right, it's a great idea. And Elwyn, I know that you mentioned it to me, so that's why we were doing the show today because I'm just looking for subjects that I feel are important, and this is definitely one of them. So
Yeah.
tell everybody about what you're doing right now with this.
Tom reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be a part of the catalog, and thank you so much for including me. I was honored. I'm so proud to be a part of it. I mean, everybody knows, that I am a retired pre-K Head Start teacher, and DEI is what the main focus of my instruction was. So
Yeah,
this is my thing. This and
Mhm.
literacy.
right. This is so important. I mean, like I said, children's books. I mean, this is just something that, people are fighting for. I mean, the librarians, I'm sure they'll want to take a lot of these books off the shelf.
I think it will depend on where they live.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's true. I'm in Chicago, so I think they're staying in
Yeah, and
Chicago.
I'm in Philly.
So far, so good.
Yeah, I'm in Philly. I doubt that books will be. I mean, I'd be really shocked if they
Yeah,
started pulling
yeah,
books in Philly.
yeah. So tell us about some of the books that are being taken off that's for no reason.
Well, I was actually looking a few years ago. I wrote an article about 10 of some of my favorite books that had been banned. But yesterday, since we were having the show, I wanted to
Yeah.
refresh myself and see something more recent.
Hmm.
And there's there were 20. There's a website where they showed 23 books, and one of them is called "And Tango Makes Three."
Mhm.
It's about two male penguins who adopt an egg. So it's been challenged due to the depiction of a same-sex relationship. The
Yeah, and
fact,
I think what's important about that one, Elwyn, is that that's a true story about two penguins. I think it was the Central Park Zoo, where I
oh
might be wrong
wow,
on that one, but it's a true story that was inspired by what a zookeeper saw. So it's not even fiction; it's just the telling of a story.
yeah,
Right.
it's
A
based on
story.
fact.
That's right. It's just a story. It's a story, but it has meaning. But kids have to understand what's going on in this world. The kids are very smart. They've always been smart. But parents always think they don't know anything. But they and let's put it this way, they understand. And if they learn this, how to be getting along with people at very young age, it'll continue on. But if they learn the opposite, that will continue on too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
You know,
I couldn't believe 23 books, and some of them have been on the banned books list for forever, like the family
Mm,
book. That
yeah,
was,
by
yeah,
Todd Parr. By
yeah.
Todd Parr.
I
Yeah,
remember,
who
yeah,
is
I read that in my classroom when,
yeah.
I taught pre-K Head Start and kindergarten. It was one of the staples when we talked about, during November when we talk about Thanksgiving and families getting together and holidays. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
families getting together now is an issue, even without that issue. So we have so many issues now, and it's very unfortunate. I mean, I worked in the pediatric office at my lab tech for 25 years, and nothing has really changed. Kids are kids, but they're much, like I said before, they're educated. They really are, and you can't hide things from them.
No,
You know,
you're right.
but Tom, I wanted you to, you were on the show once before discussing about how your children handled you and your partner's life. Could you repeat that story? Because it's a good one. That when they were
Sure.
at the playground, I remember that. It's it's really so truthful. Yeah.
Oh,
You know what I'm
yes.
talking about? Yeah.
I
Okay.
do. I do. Yeah.
Okay.
So my husband and I have two adopted girls, transracially adopted girls. And my daughter, the story that you're referencing,
Yeah.
Marsha, when my daughter was about 5, we were camping, and we're tent campers, so we do that whole thing. And we were at this one wonderful family campground, and my daughter was playing on the playground, and a young girl came up to her, and as young people do, she was asking about my daughter's family, and
Yeah.
she points over to me, and she says, "Oh, that's my dad over there." And this young girl asks, "Well, where's your mom?" And my daughter says, "Well, I have 2 dads." And what was really interesting about that was that young girl left my daughter and came over to me, and kind of in this hushed, quiet, taboo-ish type of tone, asked, "Is she adopted?" And first of all, I had to tell you, I was impressed with this girl in exhibiting some sensitivity
Right.
around, some families may be sensitive about that
Now, how old was
particular.
she? How old was she?
She was probably 9 or 10.
Yeah.
So she was
Okay.
older.
Yeah.
And I said, "Yes, she is. And you can ask her about it." And so she went back over to my daughter, and proceeded to ask about her adoption. And my daughter beautifully articulated her entire adoption story. And the key point here is that she talked about how her family was created. She didn't, focus on, my 2 gay dads or anything like that. This is just how her family was formed, which was different than how her friend's family was formed. And so they had this opportunity to share the differences between their families, but also how their families are very unique. They both had 2 parents. They both liked camping, right?
Hmm.
They're both families
Right.
liked
Exactly.
camping. So we had more in common than we had that
That's
was
exactly
different.
right.
That's right.
If
Yeah.
people want to know and understand, yeah, this is an important lesson for kids and adults to learn, is that family is family. And that's,
Hmm.
I'm a big advocate of family. I write, not only did I write children's books with family, but I write adult, romance books with family and relationships, because it's
Sure.
really everything to me. And it's so important. And what a good way, a background. Kids have to understand a lot of things now. And they absolutely do at a young
They,
age now.
they do. They do. And they have the ability to comprehend. And, it's not at all, whether it's sexual orientation
Right,
or religious beliefs or cultural
right.
differences. Children have the ability to comprehend different appreciate and respect difference without, quote unquote, being indoctrinated.
Yeah.
It gives
Right.
them just an appreciation for, the fabric of our society is made up of different stitching and different materials, and that's what makes us strong, and that's what makes us beautiful.
That it's such a good story. I mean, because at a young age, they understand, look at most of us don't understand a lot of things. I mean, and we try to put it together in our lives. And at the end of the day, we are so much alike, all of us. But people
Mhm.
don't really, you know, get that. And that's why there's so much trouble because people are just trying to do the opposite or just be mean to other people, which is absolutely such a bad message for kids because they're the ones learning. You have to
Mhm.
teach them not to hate.
Mhm.
Well, I think family is a great way to make a connection with other people because
Yeah,
it's universal. Everyone has a family,
Mhm.
and everyone understands what family is.
right.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. What type of subjects are they banning? Some of the subject matters. Should,
A lot of it
yeah.
is same-sex
Uh-huh.
parents,
Uh-huh.
transgender. There was another book. I think it may have been banned. These were more for young adult, but one of them touched on suicide.
Yeah,
But I mean, like, children need these stories
they
because
do.
because they're they reflect what's going on in their own lives.
Well, I am sure there's a lot of little kids that have had suicide in their family. And so they need to understand this. It's a very hard subject to understand because there's always so many questions as to why. And that is at any age. That's the
Yeah,
whole thing about suicide at any age. You could be 20, 30, 40, 50, and the question still remains the same. Why? So I think
yeah.
kids should understand that adults also feel that way.
My
It's not just a kid thing.
my father committed suicide when I was a
Wow.
senior
Really?
in high
Oh,
school.
geez.
Yeah,
So
Mm.
sorry.
and my oh, thank you. Yeah, it had a major ripple
Mhm.
effect on our lives. It was just, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't.
And I
I've
think that
actually
right.
started
And
writing.
go ahead.
I actually started writing a story about it years ago, but I never finished it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
yeah,
Ellen,
some
so
things are too hard, too close.
yeah.
Go ahead,
yeah,
So
I feel
yeah.
like this is
Tom, were you
a
gonna
good
say
time, and
something?
so
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and Elwyn, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that,
oh,
uh,
thank you for
Yes,
being
yeah, yeah,
compassionate.
for that experience. Yeah, and being
yeah,
vulnerable and sharing
yeah,
that. That's very
yeah,
personal.
yes.
I feel like this is, we got quickly into a very deep subject, and we should probably do a
Mm.
PSA right now for 988, which is the National Suicide
Yeah,
Hotline in the U.S. So you
Yeah,
can text
yeah,
or call
yeah,
988, and get immediate
yeah,
24/7 support, if you or
yes.
a loved one, is feeling like they may harm themselves. So
there's
yeah.
Yes,
also a
yeah.
transgender suicide
Yes.
hotline.
Yes.
It's Trans Lifeline, eight
Hmm.
seven seven five six
Yeah.
five 8860.
So
And see, that's a subject, transgender. I think that, I have a couple friends and actually, somebody that I hosted with years ago, it's in her family, also transgender. So I think that people don't realize how many families are affected by this now. And I think the information that goes out is completely not fair. But I do feel that people don't understand it and they're scared of it. But I do think that they should be discussing it more in the right way, not the wrong
I
way.
agree.
yeah.
I have very close family members who are
Yeah,
transgender, and watching them struggle
Hmm.
and grapple
yeah,
with
yeah,
knowing that they're different and the self-loathing that comes over them, and the depression, the anxiety, the suicidal ideation, the self-harm. I mean, there is a host of things that
Yeah.
this community goes through, that if you don't see it firsthand, you just don't get it. And that's
Yeah.
part of what upsets me about J.K. Rowling, because there are so many transgender children who grew up on her books and they found a home with Harry Potter,
Yeah.
because, and he had his Death Eaters talking about the purebloods and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and then she turns around and does what she's doing, and it's I think it's devastating. Um, I just think it's really devastating that she's using a lot of her money to support trans groups and hurt people.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Harry Potter was
Yeah.
a huge thing in our family when my kids were growing up, and yeah,
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
It is. It is. Well, and I think what's important here, right, as we think about our topic for today, is, you know, regardless of the situation, um, some people are comfortable seeking help immediately and raising their hand and asking
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
And some people, and by people, I mean, we're talking about kids right here, but
Yeah.
also this applies to adults
Yeah.
as well.
Definitely. Definitely.
And some people are not. And books are a great way
Right?
to
Yeah.
feel seen, to feel
Yeah.
supported, to start to gain a little bit of understanding. And when we hide or shelter our youth from books that can provide them a reprieve, a respite, answers, then we're doing them an incredible disservice, because we are contributing to their feelings of isolation, their feelings of perhaps feeling broken. Right? Am
Yep.
I the only one that feels this way? What's wrong with
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
So books can truly help to save lives. They can help to open up conversations
Yeah.
that can be meaningful and deep, and help to protect our kids. Even if it's, our kids are, they're curious about a friend of theirs. It may not be, a
Yeah.
personal experience that they're having, but a friend may be. And
Yeah.
so we have to give them exposure, or basically we're sending the message that if you are not like, quote unquote, like everyone else, you shouldn't talk about it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But it's important that they do talk about it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what books do. I mean, they provide
Yeah.
that opportunity, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then, Ellyn, I want to go back to, the book banning list.
Yeah.
And anybody could certainly Google, the top 10 banned books and find the list that we're talking about. But there's a favorite in our home. And so we love Andrea Beatty and her books. She wrote Rosie Revere, the engineer, Iggy Peck, the architect, Ada Twist, scientist, right? And she also, and this has been turned into, her books have been turned into a Netflix series as well. But she
Oh,
also
great.
wrote my favorite of her entire series. My favorite book is Sophia Valdez, Future Prez.
Uh-huh.
And Sophia is she appears, it's not stated, but she appears to be of Mexican descent, her family.
Yeah.
And she lives with her abuelo. So she lives with her grandfather. And Sophia is just an incredible, she and her grandfather, they give back to their community. They care about the members of their community. And long story short, grandpa gets hurt because there's this big heap of trash that, they trip over, and he hurts his
Right.
ankle. And Sophia, at 6 or whatever age she is in the book, I don't remember, she's in second grade, so this is 8, maybe 7, 8. Sophia goes on a mission to the town commission and to the mayor to turn that pile of trash into a park. And the book is about how to me it's empowering women and girls. It's empowering
Yeah. Yeah.
Mexican or different descent other than white.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it just is such an uplifting and inspiring book, and we've read it over and over and over again. Okay,
Yeah.
so I've gone
Yeah.
on and on. Everybody's going to go buy this book and say he's not.
Somebody's out there having fun.
Yeah,
But
sounds like my dogs.
oh yeah, I'm so sorry. But it is.
That's a regular household, right? That's
Yes,
how,
speaking
yeah.
of families and connections.
Yeah. Well,
The-
I mean, I think, with people that are listening, and I'm hoping, people try to understand more. And I'm sure, like, this too, Ellen, that teachers have a really tough time now, I'm sure. And unfortunately, we'll see how many teachers end up quitting because they can't have the freedom that they used to have.
I know. Well, I think I may have mentioned this on one of your shows before, but I mean, a lot of kindergarten teachers have left the profession
Yeah. Yeah.
because the the standards, the just all the stuff
Yeah.
that's expected from kindergartners, it's unbelievable.
I mean, kids should be kids. I mean, I've
Yeah,
always felt that way, and I did that with my son, and because I think it's important that they remain kids and try to
yeah.
enjoy and have a good time. I think that's fun, but they
And
need
I
to
mean,
know fun.
but I mean,
You know,
kids can still learn,
yes,
even if
yeah,
they're not quote unquote doing the
right,
typical academics.
right,
It's all just how the teacher presents it in the learning centers.
yeah, yeah,
And
and
like,
and it's tough trying
yeah,
to hold yourself back from saying things that you might want to say as a teacher.
yeah, well,
That's
like,
probably a problem.
but I think that the social aspect is so important because when we were kids, we went outside. And
Yeah,
if there was a problem, we had to negotiate. We had to learn to compromise. Maybe
yeah,
sometimes we ran in and got our parents. But for the most part, we were left to our own devices. We had to learn to become negotiators.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And I think kids, I think it is, with all the, when you're writing a book, I mean, sometimes you probably don't realize that you're coming out of having a lesson. Like, and even in my books, when I wrote them years ago, my children's books, the messages are still the same.
yeah,
But I never thought it was a message till after the book was done and people
yeah,
would review it and say, "Oh, this has a message." But I just kind of wrote it, so I think it's if you take a situation and you put it into words and pictures, and sometimes you don't realize what a good message you're sending.
yeah,
I think that's a problem for people. You know,
yeah,
to you know what's the good message, because if you sit there and just say I'm going to write a book with a message,
yeah.
then it's too much for kids. They can't take all that.
That's true. Yeah,
They need to have it slowly. And I think the world is such a fast-paced world,
yeah.
you know. So wait, wondering what to Tom, are you here? Is Tom not here?
I, it doesn't sound like he is.
Okay. All right.
But I'm talking about banning certain things. I have a list from the New York Times
Yeah.
from a couple months ago, and it's words that federal agencies were removing from their sites. Would you like to hear some of the words?
Yes, absolutely.
Gulf of Mexico, we all know that one, right?
Yep. Uh-huh. We do.
Pronouns,
Yeah.
activism, anti-racism, assigned at birth, DEI, disability, diverse groups,
I know.
sexuality. I mean, there's a whole list of them. It's traumatic, victims.
I mean, these were all, everything that you're saying is just things that people over the years have overcome.
Yeah, all the work that
All the work
during the
that
civil
went
rights
into
and
everything.
that women had
You
to
know,
fight
I ha-
for, and
yeah,
the
I
queer
happened to be looking
community.
at something because I put an ad out for my to life book for the Holocaust. I haven't been doing it as much as I used to do. There's so many bad messages out there. So, but I decided no, I'm just putting out what the truth is. The
Right.
person I wrote the book about was a Holocaust survivor. But I looked at some of the reviews, and out of all my books, I have a lot of books out there, and this one got bad reviews because they didn't like the story. They didn't think I researched it enough. I didn't know what I was talking about. However, I was the person that I wrote the story. I sat with her day after day, and every word was her story. I put it where it's in a book, but
Right.
everything, it was all true. And they gave me a 1 star, and Amazon still leaves it there because they go, it's not true. It wasn't a good story because it wasn't heartfelt. And why did she do this? And why didn't she do that? But it's a person's life. So, I mean, people don't even understand when it was a memoir of her, not me.
Right.
But I talk about this a lot because this was a true story. And it was her words, even when she went to talk at temples, she went to talk at the Holocaust Museum, her story was the same, but they didn't want to hear it. And they're thinking it's just not true. And
Right.
I didn't do research. Well, I would say a person that was in a concentration camp was very good research.
Exactly.
She had a story to tell. So this is the thing. There's people out there that just don't want to hear about subjects that are important.
Yeah,
And that's where we are now.
I
Hey
know.
friends,
So,
I'm
yeah,
back,
yeah.
by the way.
Okay,
I'm
good.
back.
All right, good. I
Sorry and
figured you were gone.
sorry for the crazy dog.
Oh, it's okay.
No,
I didn't want
my
to mute you. I didn't want to take you off. So I figured
no,
you'll come
that's
back.
okay. My computer switched my microphone and I didn't
Oh,
realize it. So I was sitting here talking away to y'all. So I'm so
oh,
sorry.
I didn't hear anything. We're not.
But I heard everything you were saying.
Right. Okay. I mean, it really, all of these subjects that, people don't want to hear about, they should hear about. We can't hide from the world. This is what's happening. And
Well,
all these people with issues and having childhoods that were bad, we have to help them. And kids out there learn about them. Go
Mhm.
ahead, Ellen.
it's just we've all, we're so sharply divided, and we
Yeah.
each have our own media bubbles, and we each have our own version of the truth, and
Yeah.
that's hard to get through to the other side. And
Well, and we lose so much. I mean, going back to the story
Yeah.
that I thought I finished with y'all, and
Yeah.
and clearly I didn't finish. And I was
That's what I was
I
gonna
was
say.
like, what?
What
Why
didn't you
is
say?
why is
What did we
Marsha
miss?
talking over me? How rude!
Yeah.
um, but I also don't think that we take the time to consider what we lose when we, exercise this extreme censorship or this
Yeah.
banning. And
Yeah.
and so going back to the story that I was telling, right? I mean, and I won't retell it, but
No,
it
it's
is a
okay.
story about empowering young girls to be change makers.
Yeah.
And that book is on the banned book list because there is some belief, right, that the grandfather looks like, he might be, of the LGBT community. And I
Mhm.
think there is someone that's wearing, a rainbow somewhere. But
Yeah.
it's not at all talked about, right? It's just in the background of the story. And for someone that would be in the community, they would see that and they would feel seen. And if you weren't part of the community, you probably missed it.
but
So,
Yeah.
kids love rainbows. They
oh,
I
sure,
just
love
sure,
a
sure.
rainbow.
do.
I
I
But
love
know,
a
but
rainbow.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
love it.
when I would when we would talk about rainbows in my pre-K class, they just love them.
of
Right.
course.
They love to
I love
draw
them.
them. They love using all the colors.
Right. Well, and
So
that's what I mean about I don't think we really take the time to consider what we're
yeah,
losing. Like we lose
Yes.
the fun,
Yeah.
we lose, important messages like,
Yeah.
young girls can be change makers. Um, and um, that's the risk that we take when we silence people. There's the psychological and emotional impact as well, but then you're robbing them of other really important messages as
Yeah.
well.
yeah,
Look at I live in Chicago. It's a huge melting pot. I grew up this way. I love it. This is what people love about Chicago is that we accept everybody. Or we did. Let's put it this way, we always did, okay? And that's a good thing.
Hmm.
It's so much better when you know people from different cultures. I mean, even when I'm doing the shows after all these years, I've met a lot of people that I never would have met. And that's why I still continue to do them. I love that. And I think it's always good to meet people that are different than you are because we basically have things in common. Like all the writers I have on, it doesn't matter like what religion they are or what
Hmm.
race. It
Hmm.
shouldn't matter. I mean, when I never thought about any of this. I just grew up, and we had friends and it didn't matter. But it doesn't it's a shame now because
Yeah.
you're missing different cultures. It's so
Yeah.
important. That's
and
like
Yeah.
really important for
and
kids to
this
learn.
this vision of everybody has to be white, everybody has to be Christian, like
Yeah,
it's just
I know.
boring. You know what I mean? Like it's like watching the same movie
Right,
over and
right,
over again.
right.
There's
And
so
who
much
wants to
Yes.
be
beauty and
boring?
diversity in the
Right.
different cultures, like
Yeah,
just like the the different clothes that each culture wears and the different
yeah,
music. And
yeah.
again, there's differences, but it's still a connection. Like everybody has to wear clothes, everybody has to eat
Right.
food, and everybody's interpretation just makes it more fun.
Oh,
I
Elvin,
know.
speak for yourself. I'm not wearing any clothes right now.
Oh, I thought this was a rated G show.
Yeah, right, right. Oh, I've had those. I've had those shows. See, that's the thing. When I first started doing podcasts with Red River, we had all different kinds of. The person that started Red River, which is like 17 years ago, I think, and we had all people from all over, and we all had different shows. And it was so interesting because everybody else had shows like I'll do shows on book. They had people doing books and whatever. And my show, like the one woman that ran it, she would say, "Do you want to take this subject on?" I go, "Well, yeah, yeah." So I had everybody on. That's why it was called "A Good Story is a Good Story," and I'm still doing stories about so many different things because nobody else wanted to touch that. I had people on that were very sexy writers, and a lot of them were teachers, and they couldn't use their name
Oh.
because
Mhm.
if they did,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it was not a good thing to
Yeah,
be in the
that's right.
PTA.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
and they're all still out there writing, and
Good for
they
them.
are very successful. So, and people, it's not about them; it's just a story they're writing. So, I think that when authors are writing good and bad, sometimes you're writing something that is not your taste, but then you're writing it because it's an important subject.
Yep.
We're writers, not people that sit there and say, you should do this and you shouldn't do that. We're putting out information that is truthful. We want the truth, though, not
Hmm.
fake. Truth. Truth
Yep.
matters.
Yep.
Because that's the one thing you teach children to be truthful. And so, I don't know, Elwyn, do you want to mention anything about, any of the things that you did this weekend?
Oh, okay, sure.
All right. I didn't know
Yeah,
if you
I
want to mention.
was.
I know what you did, but I just want to know if you want
Oh,
to talk
I
about
guess
it.
you saw my Facebook page.
I
Yeah,
didn't,
I
but
was.
I didn't see that.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I was on the Parkway in Philadelphia. Started out at Love Park. We walked down to the Art Museum for the No Kings protest, and it
Hmm.
was amazing. It was the biggest march I've ever been to, and
Wow.
it made me feel so hopeful and
Yeah.
and so proud. And
So,
yeah,
what were the people saying? What were they saying? What kind of, because a lot of people have different causes.
I mean, we're basically all saying the same thing. We need to
Yeah.
save our democracy. We have no
Right.
kings in
Okay.
the United
Yeah.
States.
Yeah.
people are people, love is love, because it's
Yep.
also Pride Month. But yeah, it was pretty much like whatever else was going on in the rest of the country. You know, the same
Chicago had like
thing.
100,000 people.
Who did?
Chicago.
Oh wow, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
There's different numbers being floated around
And
between
there
some
really
people
were
are.
though. I mean, they showed pictures. I mean, on the local news. I mean, there
Yeah,
were 100,000 people, I think. I mean,
that's
people were out. Oh my God. All the way down like Michigan Avenue and all over. Oh my God.
yeah,
It's
Mm.
unreal. And it's so
amazing.
great that people are of all cultures and people of different parties are out there.
Yeah, it's nice to hear that some people have woken up and are supporting and really understanding what is happening.
Yeah. Say it. Yeah. It's really important, that these things take place.
Yeah, well, let's just hope that the marches keep getting bigger.
I should ask if anybody out there, we have some callers, but I don't know that they want to talk. So if you're,
Oh, come on
I,
in.
I don't
Yeah.
know if they do. I have a feeling they might. So does somebody want to have a subject that they wanted to bring up here? Just you can put it in the message box. I see you there, but I don't know if they want to. Sometimes people don't want to, say things.
Oh, okay.
But if you do, just let me know or Facebook me or message me. I should look and see because, you know, I I'm all this is a live show. I still even though I don't have to do live shows anymore because this isn't that network that Blog Talk was all live, but I my shows are live. I'm taping. It's taping as we're talking, but I don't edit. I don't like to edit because I really wouldn't want someone to edit me.
Mm.
So I never edit the shows.
Right.
Whatever it is, it is. We'll hear a dog bark. We're okay with that. We have a child cry. We have coughing. I was so sick one time and I was doing a show and I didn't want to cancel. Okay. So I was coughing, but I brought like a towel into the room and I was coughing into a towel. And I used to do that when I was a kid. So my mother wouldn't keep me home because if I was coughing, I'd have to stay home. So I was coughing into the towel because I
Wow,
didn't want
that's
to
a good
cancel.
idea.
So, what? You
That's a
what?
good idea.
I know.
Although I would have been coughing obnoxiously so I could stay home.
I had
Yeah.
always had allergies and like a
Oh,
barky cough. And so when I would go downstairs with a towel, nobody could hear me, and I didn't want to stay home. So that's the best way to do it. Right. So if you have a cough, you just, if you're on a show, just take a towel. Nobody could really hear. I hope they didn't hear it. But if they did, I was sick. Naturally, everybody was sick in the last few years, with
yeah.
COVID or whatever, and so I still did the shows which you were in. Ellwyn, you were on a lot of those shows during COVID, you
Yeah,
know?
I didn't realize you were sick. You did a good job. I didn't hear you
Yeah.
cough.
Well, no, I didn't, wasn't sick then. I wasn't sick exactly
Oh,
then at the
okay.
beginning, like the first 2 years. I got it after
Yeah, me too.
COVID, after it was really big,
Yeah.
and so we had shows and Ellwyn, you were on and we had all these different kind of shows. So, so Tom, what else do you want to tell people out there that because I mean you have a great message, you're out there promoting constantly,
Constantly.
and that's good, but that is really important. It is, that's why I didn't see yours, Elwyn, because I'm working on, which everybody knows who knows me for the last 60, I'm still working trying to get my Facebook pages right. I can't because I have some people on one page, some people on another. And I asked Facebook, in those help, I go like, what is I said, my pages are all screwed up. What can I do? So they
Oh,
answered. Actually, they did. They go, when you have a lot of issues, the best thing to do is just start over. I'm thinking like, oh my God,
Oh
I want
man.
to. And people say, don't start over, but
yeah,
I
because you
feel
already have
like
all of
it.
your followers. Maybe you could just go through and
I know.
streamline it.
See, but if I start a page and then which I have already, and I ask people, I know they think I'm hacking them. And so they're going to say, no, we're already your friend. And that's
Oh,
not
okay. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
You can't do
yeah.
that now.
yeah.
So tell us a little, how many more days is your Kickstarter?
It's just 2 more days.
Oh,
So,
you've
yeah.
had this for a while, right? So,
Yeah, it's been live for a month. And so so we have 2 more days. It ends on Thursday at noon or right around noon Eastern time. And so if anybody's interested, certainly, you can search for it. You can search for the catalog of diverse kids books in Kickstarter. You can go to my page, tomtracybooks.com. Ellwyn, do you have it on your website or no?
Yes,
Yeah.
but I
What?
couldn't get the PDF to show up. So I have the link that
There you go.
go to your website. So they can go through me, but then they're going to be directed to you. I don't know
Okay.
why I couldn't get the PDF to show up. I put PDFs up before, but this one wouldn't work for me.
Huh. So what's your website that people could go to?
Ellwynautumn.com.
Nice.
and what's
Um,
yours?
and th-
I'm going to put it out later because with this network, I can, I'm going to put it, it'll be on Spotify, it's on Apple, it's all over, but I'll add your websites after the
yeah,
show,
cool.
you know.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm tomtracybooks.com. Um, but anyway, there's lots of ways to support. And again, every dollar that we receive is going to support the distribution of this book for free because we want to really eliminate the barriers to access of discovering new diverse books. And we should say, we talked a little bit about mental health on this call, and so we have some books in the catalog that are related to mental health. We talked about LGBT stuff. We have some books in there related to that. But we have 150 stories, as I mentioned earlier, and there's a range of diverse topics that are included. So we have abilities and disabilities included. We have a significant section on BIPOC, race and ethnicity, etc. So it's a great way for you to find your new favorite diverse kids book.
yeah.
So, but
I think
and
it's
I
important. I think it's important, and I think that, the more, listen, you're always welcome to come on the show and talk about this, because I think we need to do more things for kids. I always did, because,
yeah.
a lot of shows. When
Well, and
Virginia and
that
I did shows at, we had, well, it wasn't Michigan Avenue, it was World of Ink Network, but I was still Michigan Avenue Media. We did them together. And the thing was, we had a lot of, that's what we did, a lot. And we had people reading children's books. It's important, it's such an important thing,
sure. Well,
no
and I wanted
matter
to say,
what.
I mean, so our topic here is why are
Yes,
books being banned, and maybe we can orient a little bit here around. So, what can you do, right?
right.
So,
Yes.
it's while book banning is occurring, and listen, there's I'm a kid of the 80s, so I grew up
Yeah,
with Judy Blume's books, and
yeah.
many of her books have been banned because they
That's
talk
true.
She's
about
Yeah.
shocking.
adolescent
Shocking. Yeah,
adolescent sexual identity discovery, right? Not sexual orientation, but just the natural process of puberty, and it normalized that for me. Thank God for her books, right? Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
kids getting, sorry, but like boys getting erections like
yeah,
spontaneously, like, oh
yeah,
wow, that's a normal thing. It happens to
yeah,
these characters in the books. Cool. I'm not alone.
yeah.
Um, so I think, talking about what can you do. So first of all, if Elwyn, you started great by talking about like how easy it is to just do a search for books that have been
Right.
banned.
Yeah,
Um, you can do that search. Go buy a book, right? They're still available.
yeah,
So you can still purchase them from, Amazon or your favorite indie bookshop, which would be even nicer, support an
yeah,
indie bookseller.
And
Um,
libraries, free libraries.
yeah, yeah.
well, but that's where they
Well,
might be
some
getting
are
pulled from the
right.
shelves.
Yeah,
So, like,
yeah,
you can go and advocate to your local library
Yeah.
to, see if they're carrying any of these books. and if not, advocate for the value and the importance for them to carry the books. So simple steps that you can do to help kind of push back. And that's exactly what we're doing with the catalog. Is we're saying our voices will not be silenced, and we're
Yeah.
going to bring them forward. So anything that you do to support books that have been banned, or diverse books, or in particular independent authors, makes a huge impact, and is truly appreciated on behalf of all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so important. I will probably, I was just thinking, I always come up with these little ideas here, but I'm thinking like maybe once a month I should have a show of children's books, and maybe like we did this years ago, we would have people on and they'd read a chapter of a book so people would know what the book is about. It's really hard on Amazon for books to get noticed. There's just so
Oh
many
yeah.
books,
Yeah. Too
Yep.
much.
you know.
Yep.
And that's one of the problems, And if you don't have 400 million reviews, nobody's looking.
Yeah.
They'll go, oh, they don't have that many reviews, but they're missing a lot of good books.
Yeah. I love that idea, Marcia.
Yeah, maybe
Just
I will do
we,
that. Yeah.
and maybe we could, I've already invited myself.
Well, of course you're invited. Of course you're invited.
um,
Listen, most of my guests over the last 16 years are repeat guests. And people say, oh, some people thought, like when I was doing shows years ago, that we were all in the same room and like we're all like neighbors. That we're all
Oh,
sitting around and chit chatting because everybody knows on my show they can say whatever they like because I don't believe that people shouldn't have a say. I believe people should say what they have to say, right or wrong. You
mhm.
have to say, there's nothing right or wrong. It's what you think. And it's an
Yeah.
opinion. People are allowed to have opinions and write about what they feel strongly about.
Yeah. But I
You
love
know,
this idea of
okay,
giving
I'm going to do it.
voice. Yeah, giving voice to books that have been
Yeah,
silenced.
yeah.
What a great idea. Great,
that,
great
Okay.
idea.
I do.
Okay. And even people that, even if they're not books that are silenced, of books that kids would enjoy the message.
Sure.
Ellwyn, you do great reviews, and,
Oh, thank you.
and you're always out there pushing for things.
And she writes great books.
She
Oh,
does.
thank you.
She is, and she's
Thank
a
you.
great guest. She's been on for many years, and the years go on, but we all do different projects. But for kids, I think this is really important, and for adults, just try to think of yourself sometimes as what you were like as a child, being curious, and let them grow. Don't stifle them with thoughts that, about things that they shouldn't really hate. Hate is a really bad, it's a bad word, hate, to hate this or hate that, to get along with people. I think, and as a teacher, you know this, Elwyn, you work hard to do that
I did. I did. Yeah, and so did all my colleagues. We. It was one of the big things for me.
because
I
you've
would.
Yeah.
always been
Well,
that
because
right.
and the opposite, or what hate begets bullying, right?
Yeah,
And we
Yeah.
know the devastating effects that
yeah,
bullying can have on
yeah,
our youth.
yeah,
So, if we bring it back to books, like what's worse, really? Like a book that has I'll stick because I'm in the LGBT community. I'll stick there. But
yeah,
a book that has a pride flag, or a kid that gets bullied so hard that he ends up, hurting himself or withdrawing completely,
yeah.
etc. So, I mean, this is perspective here, friends, and kids' lives are too important, and they aren't being damaged because there's a pride flag on a page. I promise you.
Yes, because obviously there's probably somebody in their family that might be gay. I mean, and they should understand what that means.
Yeah. Yep.
And like you're saying, like even at a young age,
Hmm.
and the truth doesn't hurt even when they're young, because I think kids really hate it when people lie to them.
Do you know? You want to? I'll tell you an interesting story. And Ellen, you'll appreciate this from being a teacher
Okay.
of youngsters as well. So just this year, so my daughter's in second grade. I was a guest reader for Read Across America, and I brought in one of my books, and I won't shamelessly plug. I almost shamelessly plugged,
No,
but I
go
brought in
ahead.
one.
No,
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 no.
no. It's not
Yeah,
important to
it's
the
not
story.
shameless. It's not shame. That's
But
not
I brought in
not
one
on
of
this
my
show.
books,
Not on this show.
and so I always introduce. I brought in a book about my daughter's adoption, and I always introduce it, right. And so my daughter has two dads. There's two dads on the cover, and I talk about it, and then we read it, and then we talk some more. And so when I was talking about the two dads on the cover, I had a kid raise his hand and like just so eager to share with me. And so of course I called on him, and he shared with me that he had two dads as well. And
Oh,
so, but here's where my bias came into play. I was like, oh, isn't that great? He's got a gay family. And I said, oh, that's fantastic. Tell us about your dads. And he's like, well, I have a dad and a stepdad. And I was
Yeah,
like,
oh,
oh
right.
my God,
Mm,
there's so
right.
many people that have two dads. Like
Yeah,
I had two
right.
dads growing up,
Right.
if we define it that way too. But it was it was a wonderful
Like,
learning for me. Like he
yeah,
taught me
right.
something in that moment, right? That
Yeah, yeah,
two dads is a
yeah.
pretty common thing,
Now,
yeah, that's
and there's no stigma, right?
yeah,
So
right.
the fact that my daughter has two dads that happen to be gay, um, it was normalizing for him because he had two dads as well, and so it created space for him to share and be proud of the fact that he also had two dads, and it was just this wonderful, innocent moment that was very poignant for this
Yeah,
adult who was
yeah,
reading for the
yeah.
class. Yeah,
Yeah, because sometimes you hear things and you go, "Oh, you know what? I didn't think about that."
yeah.
yeah,
Because you're thinking on one subject, but there's so, listen, this world, there's a lot of people that are married two times, three times, whatever, and or not married. It's just very different now. So people have to get with the program because you have to get into the real world. We have progressed. We're not going back. We are not going back.
amen.
I'm older than both of you, but we're not going back because all those women that fought
Yep,
and men
yep,
that fought to give us rights, you
hmm,
can't have that happen that where they're taken away just like that.
yep.
And that's how it would be. And also we should have Rich Linville on. I don't think,
Oh
Tom, you've
yeah,
met him. Did
I
you meet
have.
him? Were you on the show with him? Okay,
No, I
because
wasn't on the show with
oh,
him, but I know
but you
him.
know
But I
him.
know him. Yeah.
Okay, because Ellwyn knows about. I mean, this guy. I just wish he was my teacher when I was in school. He he taught for like 50 years or something. I don't know, and he has book after book after. I mean, he's got over 100 books on every subject, and he's so kind and he's so thoughtful and caring about his kids. I mean, he's that he teaches. So he's always a great guest to have on because he's a teacher that let kids develop at their own rate.
Hmm.
Whatever, if they like certain things, if they didn't want to read, he'd say, okay, read a magazine, just read,
Yeah,
and he's great. So yeah, I'll talk to him about it and I'll arrange for like another show to do because I miss doing children's shows. And
Mm.
okay, Tom, you will be on for sure. Elwyn. And
yeah.
also, I feel like calling you like Tom. Every time I'm thinking of you, I'm thinking of like Tom Brady. And then I'm thinking like
Uh, if only,
it's
in so
no.
many ways, if only.
That Tom Brady's name just comes up there, because it's just it. But you know how some names stick in in your head,
Yeah.
But yeah. So, all right, what would you for the last few minutes, like Alwyn, what would you like to tell people it matters that they really hear this about how you feel?
um, I think that Tom said it perfectly earlier. Books, stories are a great way to have difficult subjects with children. It's a great
Yeah.
way to teach them a lesson, but in a non-threatening way. And like, they don't they might not even realize that they're learning something because of the way it's presented. And um, you can enrich their vocabulary just about a multitude of different things and help grow their world. And empathy, sympathy. There's so many there's so many wonderful things about stories.
Yeah, that matter.
Yes.
It's always a good story is like a good story. Everybody has a story, some kind
Mhm.
of, we all do, story that we have about our life. Okay. And Tom?
You know what, Marsha? I think you just made a really good point. So I'll double down on that, um,
Okay.
because it's something that compels me, and is part of my writing, is that everybody has a story, and everybody's story is valuable,
Yeah.
and deserves to be heard. And when we silence other people's stories,
Mm,
we send
yeah.
the message that they're not as valued.
Right.
And we all have value, and all of our stories matter.
Yeah. I believe that. That's true. I mean, it really is. And for those
That
listening, if there's a subject that you want to talk about, just you'll find me on Facebook in many pages. So um, you can message me. I'm happy to have a show about any subject that you want to talk about.
Love it.
I've always done that. And I always will do that. And so the last word, who wants the last word? Any of you? Elwyn?
uh,
Okay, the last word is just, all right, think about everything we said today, everybody out there, and think about the fact of how important this all is. We were all kids, and maybe some of us, I mean, my childhood was good, but some of us didn't have good childhoods. So for those people that didn't have good childhoods and are raising children, try to think about what you would have liked as a child
yeah,
and
There you
maybe
go.
be that person
There you go.
for children.
bring out your inner child.
Yes, we all have it. We do all have it.
Hmm.
Some people don't want to bring it out, but I don't know why. It's called being having fun and freedom. It's a good way to be.
I agree.
All right. So thank you both for being on,
Oh, thank
and
you.
we will. Tom, I mean this. I will have that show because we did have that show.
Yeah,
So think
let's do it.
about the books that you want. Yeah, we'll do one next month. And hopefully, I'll be finishing my book. I took off a few weeks to finish my book, but that didn't work. So I could, so I thought, well, I'll just go back to doing shows because that will work. When I'm busier, I'm better.
Hmm. You
I
find the
have,
way to squeeze things in.
yes,
Yeah,
because otherwise it's just like, well, and so I'm thinking, I have so many authors on it. All these people have hundreds of books, and I always go like, how is that possible?
I
I
know,
write
right?
all the time. Yeah, right. Honestly, but I'm really fussy, and sometimes I sit there and go like, don't be so fussy. Just write this book. But look at, like I said, Tom. We have. I'm glad you know Rich because Rich has over 100 books
That's
and on
Amazing.
different
That's great.
subjects.
It's
And so,
amazing.
and he gets illustrations from like clip art, and he writes on every subject.
Love it.
Subjects we didn't even know were good subjects. So,
wow.
and they are. So, all
Yeah,
right. So,
stories.
thank you all for listening, and I will send you both the link.
Okay.
It'll be out all over the place. Sometimes I don't put it out first now just to make sure everything goes okay on the show. And hopefully it did. Okay, so I got it now. It
All right.
really,
Well,
I got it. I
Marsha,
got it
thank
together.
you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
And Elwyn, so
much.
good to be on with you again.
Yeah,
I know. It was
yeah,
nice to
it's
talk
great
to
that
you
you both
too.
came on. And thank you for
Yeah.
telling me about this, Ellwyn. And so I'm glad we did this. So, everybody out there, have a great day. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.